Take the Leap is the podcast where we get real about the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship and life. Sure, some folks make running a business look like a walk in the park, but let's be honest, it's more like a wild ride through a theme park with a lot of unexpected twists and turns.
Join us, your co-hosts, Ashlyn
and Tori,
as we spill the beans on our own real-life experiences and shine a spotlight on some amazing guests. From the highs of success stories to the lows of epic failures. And hey, we'll even throw in some cringe-worthy, laugh-out-loud, embarrassing moments for good measure.
So buckle up and tune in every Tuesday and Thursday for a dose of raw, unfiltered truth about what it's really like to chase your dreams and build a business.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the startup world, we've got something for everyone. Even if it's just to make you think, wow, I'm glad I didn't do what they did. Welcome back, everyone, to the Take the Leap podcast. We are so excited to be joined by our guest today, Tami Adams. With 13 years of meeting planning experience and 10 plus years working alongside high-level professional speakers and her knack for human connection, Tami has seen it all, providing unique insights into both the speaker agent and meeting planner side of her business. She brings her bubbly, energetic, and passionate personality to all clients. As an expert in speaker coaching, she loves helping the next generation of thought leaders share their ideas and change the world, one speech at a time. Welcome, Tami, to the podcast.
Hi. We're so happy to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. Like, I love the name of Take the Leap, and yeah, I'm ready to take the leap into our discussion today.
Yes.
Well,
it'll be a great one.
We're going to start it out as we always do. We would love you to share, what is your Take the Leap story? What inspired your journey to become an entrepreneur?
So I love this question. So the truth is, I was kind of pushed into entrepreneurship. So it wasn't like it was like a decision I necessarily made. So it's funny because as a speaker agent working at a large agency before I started my business, I always, like a lot of speakers are entrepreneurs. And so I always thought that was for them and not for just the everyday person like me. That's kind of how I saw myself. And so it's kind of interesting. And I never had problems like taking direction and working under people. So it wasn't like I was like, I just decided I want to work for myself. Like, it wasn't that at all. It was really honestly COVID. So while I guess deep down, maybe I always had entrepreneurial like traits, I never really could make that decision for myself. But then when COVID hit, and the world shut down and, events pretty much went out the window, which is an area that I service. It was really an opportunity to reflect. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people got during that time was like, I think we were moving too fast, my friends. And so I think it was like a time where we could just reflect and say, who am I? And so when I had that opportunity, of course, I was angry and all the frustrations and everything that comes up first, because, losing your job is never fun, especially one that you love. But then I realized eventually it wasn't personal and it wasn't intentional. It was just a sign of the times. And so I think for me, it was, I could get another job, which was an option, but I don't know, like when I was applying for jobs, like no one loves it, but I just hated it. Like I was like, and I wasn't seeing anything that I really wanted to do. Like there was nothing that I could see that I was like, okay, I want to do this for sure. Like, oh my God, I'm super excited about that job. And so I think it was like a moment of like, okay, I want to do what I did before, but I don't really want to work for someone else doing it because I feel like I have enough knowledge and information now to do this. And so then it was really through a lot of people in my life helping me to build that confidence to actually take this and believe that I could take that next step and take the leap into entrepreneurship. And it was actually my one of the speakers I work with now, Sarah McVano, who is an amazing speaker. And she was like, "Oh, are you thinking of doing this for yourself? Like, I could use some support." And then I was like, "Oh, interesting. Yes." And so I think it was like, I just decided in that moment that I was going to give it a go because somebody really saw the value that I could bring to them.
Mhm.
And like, that was a good reinforcement that I could do this on my own. And then, but like, I think it took a long time for me to really believe that I could. Like, I think it was like, all the self doubt, all the, imposter syndrome that comes up to really get to that, like get to the point where you feel you are worthy of doing something like this, because entrepreneurship is really difficult, but it's also really rewarding. And I think that was what it was for me. It was like just having the right people in my corner. And then over time, obviously that built up into more. And the more I did it, and this is the thing that I think like is a good lesson, is like we have to take the leap to even learn and know if we're going to be good at
Mhm.
something, whether that be become an entrepreneur or we like it, right? Because there's only certain things we know ahead of time. It's like even in a job, when you're applying for a job, like you interview, you do your things, you learn a little bit, but like it's really when you get there.
Mhm.
So, and I think we as humans try to like figure it all out first, but the reality is, how can we even do that if we've never done it? So I don't know if that fully answers your question, but that's kind of was my journey a little bit.
It absolutely does. Thank you for sharing that. And I relate to your story so much. I know during COVID, I actually started my business in 2020, a few months before the pandemic hit. And then when the pandemic hit, I thought, could I do this on the side? Could I continue to do this? Or could I try and do it full time? And I remember thinking like one of the biggest challenges might be that I wouldn't be able to work from home, or I wouldn't be able to, get all my work done and stuff like that. And I feel like it just gave me that extra confidence because I'm like, okay, well, here's that perfect situation. I mean, it was an awful situation for our world, but in terms of
Yeah.
kind of slowing down and rediscovering who you are and what you want, like it really set me up for success that way. It gave me that experience. And then, yeah, I officially left my job in 2021 and haven't looked back. So thank you for
Yay.
sharing that. I feel like there's a lot of stories out there that are the same way. And I do remember I was laid off a few years before that, and I did some freelancing until I found a job. And I feel like sometimes you need situations to happen, you need life to happen to
Yeah.
kind of help you figure out what it is that you actually want along the way. So, yeah.
Oh, totally. And I always did have this internal feeling that I was meant for something more, like
Mhm.
that there was something more I had to contribute to this world. So maybe that's what it was. And it was like a pre-premonition or like unconscious premonition. But yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Absolutely. Well, now that you've been in business for yourself for a bit, is there a piece of advice that you would give yourself knowing what you know now about working for yourself?
So this was funny because Ashlyn and I was like, do I have to give one? Because I have many.
Give as many as you
um,
want.
okay, good, because there's lots. But no, I mean, I think definitely, and I know like it's like none of this is going to sound like rocket science because there's like we're all human, right? So we all
Right.
experience the same things. But I think the biggest thing is the importance of ensuring as a business owner or as a high achiever, right? That you need to put your mental and physical self and health first is key. And I think pre-COVID, we were just very much in this like, oh my God, and this is North American lifestyle in general. Like, I have to do it all. I have to reach the stars, and that's when I'll be successful. But understanding that it is okay to take time for yourself and that it's actually non-negotiable. Like I say literally now, that taking care of yourself and making sure that you're constantly working on your mindset, because I struggled a lot with this in the beginning and I still do from time to time, But it's a work in progress, but it's a muscle that you work on. So like those negative thoughts, those imposter syndrome thoughts that come up, like just really being able to rationalize them and understand that they're not you. It's just fear a
Mhm.
lot of the time, and it's a lot of like uncertainty that we're naturally don't love,
Yeah.
and so and learning to thrive in that uncertainty. And I think over time that's what I've done is like I've read books, like really really good books on your mindset and on confidence building, and really just done some amazing things in the business and got good feedback. So it's like constantly that mindset piece, but then also allowing yourself a break. Like what I have learned, guys, is it is all about energy management. Like, so
Yes.
when you are depleted, good luck feeling
Mhm.
confident. Good luck get doing your best work, having the best day, because you're just tired.
Mhm.
It's just your body saying like my brain is tired, my body's tired, right? So good luck with any of that. But if you can like make sure that you're building in those moments, no matter how busy you are, and trust me, I know how hard it is at times. Like I've been intending to do my little workouts, 10-minute workouts every morning. And I did it for like 2 weeks, and now I've dropped off the ball. But I'm like, but I have this internal dialogue. It's like, get back to it, get
Mhm.
back to it, get back to it. And I will,
Yeah.
because it makes you feel so good just building in those 10 minutes of like stretching and exercise. It's not even like crazy running or anything. It's just that. And I was sharing with Ashton that I just came back from Europe, and so when I looked at my fall and the rest of the year, and I assessed, so a lot of self awareness is something that is really good to focus on as well, is really becoming self aware. Um, and I assessed, okay, what I was going to need to manage and deal with. I just added two new people to my team, so now I'm managing people. I have multiple events that I'm going to. Like I was just sharing, like I was just in Ottawa before that. I was in Europe. Now I'm going to Fredericton. Then I'm in Saskatoon. I didn't even get to share that
Wow.
one with you, but I'm doing it because I know that it's good for the business, and I know the networking is going to be good to build those meaningful
Mhm.
connections. And at the same time, I know that I was going to burn out if I didn't give myself the time to really take a step back and be like, okay, I just need 2 weeks to not think about work, to let my brain just enjoy and be
Mhm.
be a human in the world. And so I went to Europe for 2 weeks, and I completely disconnected. And people, it took work, took lots of work leading up, and took lots of work coming back. And I still feel like I'm catching up, but it was worth it because it allowed my brain the time to really just decompress, to really just rethink and get some more space in there to take on the things that are to come.
Yeah.
And I think the very last piece, and then I'd love to know your guys' thoughts. This one was a harder lesson, and I'm still learning it. Or tips or advice is be really careful when working with friends.
Mm.
And I'm big on authenticity, and I'm big on transparency. And so I always thought, okay, I can work with anyone, whatever. And and I wanted to believe that. Even if people told me like, oh, working with friends, like really good, I'm talking about really good friends. Like,
Right.
yes, you become friends with those you work with. That's different. But I'm talking about good friends of yours that you have deep
Mhm.
relationships with. And they're just multiple experiences, but I think it gets tricky because there's business and there's personal. And as much as I didn't want to separate the two, I learned that I had to, because when, say, expectations are not being met and that turns out to be a friend, that can be a lot harder to deal with than
Mhm.
if it's somebody that maybe you're not like deep, deep friends with. And then it could ruin your friendship. So there's a lot. I could definitely share more, but happy to open the discussion with you guys and see what you think and
Yeah.
answer anything.
I love that
Yeah.
because I do think, Tori and I are friends and biz buddies and biz besties, but I think
Mhm.
Yeah.
we do have that relationship where we're like friends first. Like if all of this goes away,
Yeah,
like our personal relationship to each other is probably much more important than
it is for
making
sure.
money, doing all the extra things, like having
Yes.
that real container of care for each other, and and splitting up the work, and and having, I don't know,
Mhm.
having grace days for, I know Tori always
Yeah.
is like, my son was crazy today. And I was like, that's okay, because you don't get to control that.
Nope.
You can move things around and do things. And I do think it requires both sides to like have clear expectations with
Yes.
each other, and communication as well.
Absolutely. And I feel like, to your point, Ashlyn, it took me time to get there. Like, if you and I had attempted to work together and be friends together maybe like 5 to 10 years ago, like this might have been like different, because like I've been now through several scenarios of working with friends or hiring friends or whatever. And it's like I've learned from each of those experiences. And so I feel like you and I, not only are we good friends on the side and good business friends, and we've worked together in certain circumstances, but I feel like you and I have both had a lot of experience too to back that up. So like the timing too was
Was
perfect.
perfect.
So I think, yeah, for listeners who are considering like going into business or partnering with their friends for certain things, I think kind of keep that in your head of like, is this the right person to do this with?
Mhm.
um what are they like? How are we good communicators with each other when things are rough?
Yeah.
Like, I guess that's the other thing too, is it's like, can you communicate with people when you need to? Like, how do you respond
Mhm.
to the other
Mhm.
person when things happen?
Yeah.
So, and of course you can't predict everything that's going to happen in the future, but that's such a good point, because I feel like so many people like it, you're so optimistic, right, at first, when
Yeah,
going into things, and it takes work to do stuff together, and there's just
it
like that
does.
extra dynamic. So having the
Oh,
right
totally.
partner is really important.
I like that message because, yeah, I'm not saying that it can't work. It can totally work. It's just be
Yeah.
careful. Like,
Oh,
just
totally.
make
Be
sure
careful.
that
Yeah.
it's I kind of put it as like, who are the friends you'll travel with, right? Like, we all have
Yeah.
friends
That's a
and we love
good
some of them,
tip.
right? Like, who are the friends you'll travel with? Like, it's so true. It's like, I have really good friends, and there's no way I'm
Yeah.
traveling with them because they would drive
Yeah.
me nuts.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then I have really good friends where I'm like, yeah, man, we travel well together. So I think it's like that, and like that open, because, yeah, I've certainly have a lot of friends I work with that it's working great. It's just, in general, I think over time I've learned
Mhm.
like, okay, you got to be a little bit more strategic about who it is that you're going to
Mhm.
work with.
Mhm.
I agree with that. Oh, I love that tip so much. Who would you travel with? Because you all know, like, you can very
Yes.
clearly identify that quickly. So if you in your head are like, oh, I can't travel with this person, maybe don't go into business with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, you're right. Evaluate the travel first before you evaluate bringing them onto your business. That's going to be a lot more complicated.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, that's so funny. No, I love
Yeah.
everything you just said. I mean, of course, if we could go back, like, there are things that we would do differently, but I also think that's part of being an entrepreneur is you're learning as you go. There's no rule book or manual. I mean, there are, but it's so different, and they were mostly written by men who are
That's
already
so true.
successful.
Mhm.
So they're not very helpful. And I think we all have different experiences. We all come from different backgrounds. We all have different situations that make us motivated and able to give what we can.
Mhm.
And so, anyway, that was my long rambling way of saying, like, we all have a different journey. And I think it's the lessons along the way and what we pull from that and what we take from that that really help us in our
Mhm.
entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah. You said
Yeah,
such great
totally.
things too about the self-awareness and self-reflection.
Mm.
And like,
Oh my gosh, yes.
I've chatted with so many people who either are considering entrepreneurship or like in the middle of it, and they have to like pivot and they have to change, and they feel so bad because they're like, oh, it's not working the way. And it's like, oh, honey, like that is what like 90% of entrepreneurship is. It's that like, well, we tried and that didn't
Pivot.
really work. So you just gotta kind of outlet it differently, and to like know and understand yourself. Like, you said you have all this travel and all these events, coming up. So you took like
Yeah.
a recharge break to prepare yourself for that. I think a lot of people, they don't slow down or they don't remember to work those things in. One of the things I think I've mentioned to Tori already, I'm considering piloting a 32-hour work week next year, and like I have a couple of times a year that our office closes for the full week. So the last week of June we're always closed, and the last week of December we're always closed. And like this December we're gonna have a few bonus days because December goes into like the first week of January, and so we're not back till January 2nd, but it's so necessary to like have those spaces where you let your brain calm down, where you let yourself recharge, and you'll just have so much better of a perspective about your business too if you're just like not in it, drilling on it all the time too, which is really wonderful. So
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I really stress that, especially in the events industry, when we are known to push, 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 push.
mhm.
It's, it's just because when you're sick or when you're burnt out, you are literally good to nobody. And so
Yeah.
everything it's kind of like our bodies and our brains tell us all these signals all along, but we just ignore it, and then it gets to a point where like we just burn out or some
Mhm.
medical thing happens to us that's like really makes us stop. It's almost like if you don't allow the time in between
You'll be
to
poor.
have that time to stop, you're going to be
Yeah,
forced to
yeah,
stop because your body's just going to say, F it, that's enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's for our own
Right.
protection
And
too.
so
I mean, our bodies are pretty
yeah.
sophisticated and doing the
They're
right thing.
really smart.
They're really smart, and I've learned to listen a lot more as well. And what you guys were saying too, like I think the other lesson or a tip is fake it till you make it. Like trust me, I'm a planner, so I want something to do something and it to
Yeah,
work. But I am realizing that a lot of times we are just trying something and then assessing what
of course.
happens from there. And if it works, great because we didn't waste time. But if it doesn't, sucks. Maybe we wasted, but then I never see it as a
Yeah.
waste. I see it as
Yeah.
like there's
Yeah.
lessons in there and there's reasons, and now we know, and we won't do that
Mhm.
again.
Iterative. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, the
Absolutely.
first person who made fire and was like, "Ooh, that's hot. Don't do
Yes.
that."
Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't
Yep.
touch that. Yeah, like because I'm gonna burn. Oh, look at
Yeah.
that. Oh, look, there's a burn that
Yeah.
hurts. Yeah, so true. So true, right? But it's like getting over this like idea of perfection, getting over this idea that we have to have it all right. Sometimes those are limiting beliefs. We just have to, as Nike says, just do it,
Mhm.
Yep.
and see what happens from there. And magical things do happen. And that's, I think, the beauty of being an entrepreneur and taking the leap in anything in life. It's like, it's scary. I mean, I emceed an event for the very first time because I just decided to do it. Like I was like, I'm just going to do this. And I remember standing at the back of the room, pooping my pants because I was like, I have to start this thing. But then once I did, yeah, I was terrified at first. And no, was it perfect? No, I'm sure I made lots of mistakes. But then from that point on, I started to like it and I started to get better. And now like when I go up on stage, I'm less nervous, right? So it's really just like, you know, yeah, I guess, yeah, understanding that we just have to take the leap
Mhm.
sometimes.
Yeah.
I love that. Now you can put MC on the resume too. Be like, "This is the thing I can offer." And it's
I haven't
fun.
decided to officially embrace
Yeah.
that one yet.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to know because then people are going to ask. So I'm like, that's just the like for the events that
That
I
you want
want
to
to
do it
do it
for.
for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah,
All
That's
right.
so
exactly.
We
funny.
have one more question that we ask everybody, and then we're going to jump into hot seat questions. And
Ooh,
so,
I love those.
our last one is, what's your why? What inspires you to do what you do?
So I'm pretty clear on this, which is great. My biggest why is I have seen the impact that speakers can make on audiences and those audiences are human beings. And I literally probably have seen I don't even know how many speeches I've seen, maybe 2000,
Mhm.
like something like that, but the impact that can happen when we share vulnerably, when we share from our experiences, when we say, hey, I'm not perfect, I don't have it all figured out, or this is something I did that was dumb, or here's a tip for this, or this is how I handled this situation, or this is how I treat my people at work, like whatever it is, like I have seen like, mental health speakers change and save lives. Like it's incredible to see what happens when people are engaged and they're inspired and they're entertained. And that's my why. My why really is to make the world a better place and make a difference for the lives of others through the spoken word. And I wholeheartedly believe we do that. Like I see it every day. I see, when I go to these events and, Michael Kutcher, one of our speakers, just spoke to a bunch of event professionals, and he shared his journey about having cerebral palsy, growing up in a celebrity family, how he, really, and he didn't even focus on that, which was amazing. It's really on this, like how he had to learn to accept himself, that he was different and he would just need to work a little harder. And now when facing death, he had to take these moments to basically, like, what he calls listen to the music and realize what was really important. And so it was this beautiful message on inclusion, purpose, perseverance, and perspective. And the impact, the amount of tears we saw. I mean, I always say it's great to make people cry as long as you make them laugh after, like the amount of people that came up to us and were like, oh my God, that resonated with me for this, and this reason. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it was so impactful that is the reason that I do this work.
The power of story is huge. I realize, I've been paying more attention to it when I go to conferences now, about like the choice of speaker, where they put them in the day, like what the, what the message is. A lunchtime speaker is very different than an opening keynote, is very different than the closer in a conference. And yeah, those stories are so amazing, especially the ones that get at your emotions and have you kind of leave, like they say, better than you entered the day with as well. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're so welcome. It's a pleasure to share.
Awesome. Well, are you ready for the hot seat questions?
Yes. These are always funny to see
what
comes up. I think of like, what's that game show where?
Oh yeah.
What is it? Oh my God.
Yeah, but I think I know what you're talking
Family
about.
Feud?
Yes.
Family
Yes.
Feud,
Yes.
they
Yeah.
have the rapid fire.
Yep.
And you're like, this.
This is going to be similar to that, except usually we don't end up answering them very quickly, and we end up talking about a bunch of other stuff on top of it. So It's kind of like that in a way, and we love it. We love all the answers that come from it.
Okay.
And so
no rules that I have to be quick.
Yeah, no, you don't have to be quick at all. But first thing that comes to mind would be great. So I like to start my questions off with this one because we've just gotten so many great answers from it. And it's, what is the best or worst piece of advice, and or both, that you've received in your career?
Oh, damn it. These aren't going to be fast. Okay. The worst piece of advice. Oh, yes. Good one. I think the worst piece of advice that I received was, people don't take you seriously, Tami, because you don't wear makeup and you don't polish yourself up when you go on video and do these things. And
so nice.
What? Doesn't that make you angry? That like who would say that? Like, somebody literally said that to me. And at first it hurt my feelings. And secondly, I was like, maybe she's right. But then thirdly, I was like, no.
I'm sorry. It was a woman that said that to you.
It was a woman.
I just automatically assumed it was a man.
No, it was a woman. Yeah.
That's just
It's just extra disappointing, I know. But yep, another woman that said this to me, and I was like, I guess what I decided in that eventually, when I got over the anger part of it and the hurt part of it, was that then they're not for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love you guys so
true. If you can't handle me being a little quirky or saying something funny or me coming in with my bangs not trimmed because I haven't gotten around to it or something like that, then we're not gonna be able to have a conversation. We're not gonna work well together. So if you can't handle that.
Yeah. I get a lot of flack for the colored hair, and I'm like, It's a deterrent. Well, yeah, because this is tame. Like I'll do like all the way to root, like full on color. And some people will be
Which I
like,
Yeah.
people
love.
people pay you money to do their stuff. And I'm like, yeah, like a lot actually. My hair color has nothing to do with my intelligence, with my capabilities. Would it matter if I was bald? Like, would it matter if I had a wig? Like wig on? No. So yeah, no, it's a great deterrent. It is, it's working the way it's
Wow. I can't believe somebody said
yeah.
that to you. Oh my God. Like, yeah. I mean, one of my speakers, Erica Kasubinan, she's like the first Canadian survivor winner. Like, she has purple hair and wears like, and owns that. And no one takes her unseriously because of it. And like,
Right.
she will wear the flashiest night, awesome outfits. Like, I'm like, girl, I need style tips. Where do you get those? And like people love her for that
Mhm.
because she's owning who she is. And I think the world is starting to open up more to that. But there are still a lot of people that believe
Like, oh,
that.
you can't do that. That's not
Yeah.
professional. Or,
Yeah.
yeah, I hate that. I
Ugh.
just, like, we're human beings. Why don't we start acting like it
Mhm.
in business? Why do we have to pretend like, for so long? I feel like the culture has been like, pretend like you're a robot
Yeah.
and show up to work that way
Mhm.
and show up to networking events that way. And it's just like, that's not real. It's gross. It's weird. I feel icky
Mhm. Yeah.
when I'm not myself. So, yeah,
Good question.
yeah.
It's like, oh, I know.
Usually it does elicit a strong response because people either have like a really bad memory of that, or they're like, well, I can't think of a bad one, but I've got a really good one. And that's a really good answer too. So it's like, I love asking that question for that reason,
It's
because we've
so
just
good
gotten some
because, yeah, it
good.
took me a second, but I was like, oh, I know.
Mhm.
It's a good one. Good one.
It's
All
great.
right, I'm going to pivot the direction of our questions.
Okay.
So, it's kind of a two-parter. So, like, what advice
Okay.
would you give someone who wants to break in to starting to do speaking and speaking gigs? Or when do you think the time is right for an entrepreneur to pursue speaking as a revenue stream? Because I do think that a lot of like people who have like thought leadership and stuff, they're like, oh yeah, it's easy, just like get in at these things. And I'm like, no, 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 there's people like Tammy for just such reason. It is not the easiest route. So yeah, what would your advice be for somebody who's thinking of like adding that as a thing that they do?
So I love answering that question. And sometimes I feel when I get coaching inquiries, like, people who are just wanting to know about this because it is something that's like a big mystery. I'm too direct, but I do it on purpose because I want people to understand like that it's not easy, like you
Yeah.
said, Ashlyn. Like
Right.
this business can be absolutely incredible. It can be very rewarding financially, but there's no such thing as the YouTuber overnight in this business. So, like, I want that people to understand that it takes time. So, I mean, starting out, my advice always is the biggest one I would say, even actually to answer both those questions, is really knowing who you are and knowing the message that you want to deliver to the world. Because you're right. I get a lot of people who are like, okay, I can talk about anything. And it's like, okay, great that you can, but why I am the meeting professional or the HR person going to come to you? What is it
Right.
that you are an expert in? So, yes, in theory, I think a lot of them could talk about anything and could probably do a pretty good job of it. But it needs to be really clear to the buyer. I always go back to the buyer, right? Because they're the ones buying the message. So
Mhm.
it's like, and it sounds funny, but they're buying you. Like they really are. And because they know what you're going to do for the audience. So I think it's like really understand. And if you have trouble with that, there are coaches and people like us that can help. Just, you guys do coaching too, like in other realms. Like there are people that can help you hone that because I always say you can't do your own brain surgery. And so even when I develop my keynote, which I will do one day, I'm actually going to get somebody else's help. Like it's not going to just be me. In theory, yes, I can do it.
Mhm.
But like, but there's that. But I think it's like, yeah, just really honing that in. And then once you've kind of like understood that, or at least have a pretty good sense or get some help with that of what that message is and make it clear, then it's like obviously starting to build the assets. So like get a website done, get some marketing and branding done, get some video, like, well, videos come later, but get, those topics and outlines set. Like, this is what my signature speech will be. This is the other ones I can deliver based on my expertise. But the signature one is what's the one that you really want to sell. And that's like you as the expert and understanding that. And then I always say, reach out to your 90-person list is always a great place to start. It's always good to start with people who love you already. So reach out. Like, I might be like, Ashlyn, you're at the board of marketing, blah, blah, blah. Like, association, like maybe they need speakers. Is there an opportunity? Blah. And like start doing some, they could be pro bono. They could be an honorarium. Like, if you're really new, like this is if you're really new, because I'm kind of against free speaking, but at the same time, I think there's always like a comedian tries out their craft, right? It's kind of like you're testing out your craft. So that's okay to do in the beginning because it's just giving you opportunity. And also, especially if it gives you an opportunity to get some video footage, video is king. And I think I could probably go on like a lot on this one, but I would say those are kind of the beginning. I mean, I know Warren Buffett says like one of the number one skills that you can have as a leader is public speaking skills. So like whether you decide to do it professionally as a business owner or just because you want to build your communication skills and build your impact skills and storytelling skills, I think it's a beautiful thing to do. And you just decide which angle you want to take with that. Do you want it to be a money generator or do you want it to be I can offer this to further my business. There's that element, like your service offerings, right? You might speak to sell is a thing. So, or it might just be, I want to give back. So it just depends.
Love that.
It's great. I love that answer. Thank you for that. Well, I have got another question, and I feel like it's a little bit of a continuation on some of the topics we've already covered, but I'm going to ask it in a certain way. So, in our conversation and also just kind of in quickly reviewing your platforms and kind of some of the content that you produce, one thread that I've seen from you a lot is that you like to talk about having doubts or imposter syndrome or, like kind of like not everything has to be perfect and kind of talking yourself out of that. And so what advice would you give to folks? And this could be either in like somebody trying to be a speaker, somebody trying to be an entrepreneur, or just kind of just take the leap in general on something that they want to do. What advice would you give someone who does have a lot of doubts in their abilities or just aren't sure that it's the right time or they can do it? And like, what would you say to them about that?
So I am going to throw something at you for this one. And my husband's going to love this. And if he's here listening right now, because he just walked in, he'll probably love this. Do a 30-day challenge. That's my answer for this one.
I love that.
So he developed this idea of a 30-day challenge. It's my husband. I'm going to give him credit for that. And it's the idea behind it can be many things, but one is to build confidence and to build in something. So like, I don't know, say for me, one, it's like, this is a funny one. I have ADHD, so sitting in silence is like not my thing. Like I really struggle with it, but I know there's beauty in it. I know it because people tell me. So, so I took on a challenge, which I did not succeed in. I will admit I failed at this one. But I took on a challenge that every day I would sit in silence for one more minute. So it started with 1 minute. I was proud to say I got up to 8 minutes, guys.
That's pretty impressive.
For somebody like me, it is. Like, so I was able to get up to 8 minutes where I was really able to shut my brain down and like not think about anything. But then I couldn't get beyond that. So I guess it was a success in a way of like that it was more than I could ever do normally. But like that's an example. But like another one is like I wanted to learn people's names. Like I wanted to be able to retain people's names better. So both of us together actually did a 30-day challenge where we had to learn I took it one step further because I'm very competitive, but like he was like, I just need to learn a new person's name every day and remember it. And my thing was that I need to learn a new person's name, remember where I met them, and one thing about them. And so,
oh, wow.
And I did
That's
it,
good.
guys, and I succeeded. And I actually found that it built my ability to remember people's names so much more. So that was key. But it could be anything. It could be like, I take the stairs instead, but it's to build your confidence that you can do it, because the trickiest thing is consistency. So when it comes to imposter syndrome, it's like, yeah, you're always going to have those thoughts. Actually, Dolly Parton is somebody that a lot of people know. And we were sitting in a session and somebody asked her, like, what do you do about imposter syndrome? It was so cool. She was like on virtual. I wish I met her in person, but and she was like, oh my God, are you kidding? They actually say scientifically that imposter syndrome goes up as you become more successful. And a lot of times you would think,
When you
yeah, and a
lose,
lot
yeah, no,
of
that's
things,
that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's different because you have more risk, you have more responsibility, and you have higher things you're trying to achieve. So it actually goes up. So it's not something that always goes away, but I think it goes back to that, what we were talking about, working on the mindset and thinking of your mindset as muscle.
Mhm.
It's like you just constantly have to work it. And the second you stop working on it, it's going to just go down, right? So I all the time have thoughts like this where it's like, oh my God, what did I say to that person? Or like, am I confident enough in this? Like, can I actually
Mhm.
do this? Or am I good enough? But I just constantly have to catch myself. And that's where the self awareness piece comes in as well. It's like, you just need to work on being self aware. But yeah, try the 30-day challenge. Like,
I
I know
love
That's
it's
I love
that.
that idea.
fun, but it's like, yeah, he tried to sleep on the floor for 30 days. That didn't work. He lasted 2 days.
Oh, that's rough. That's
Oh,
like a
Yeah,
body
but
thing. That's like a we're too old for that.
health issue thing. He's like, do you want to do that with me? I'm like,
absolutely not. Go for it,
Not
but
any
absolutely
bone
not.
in my body wants to do that with you, but thank you for the offer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so funny that
So
you talk about the
yeah.
imposter syndrome thing. One thing that I've been, when I have those doubts and those limiting beliefs, I do a lot of writing in my remarkable tablet, which I don't know if it's going to show on the screen because, oh yeah, it will
Yeah.
show on the screen because we're doing it the other way. But is writing down like hard shit that you did or like stuff that you know what I mean? Like every time you're just like, oh, I messed up, on this one thing, right? Like go back and look at a thing that you did like super successfully because that
Oh,
is,
totally. Yeah.
that is the way to get kind of through that as well.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's good, Ashton. Those review, there's an event, it's called like Year in Review, and it's literally where you get to write down all the things and checklists too.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's called Year in Review, and it's like where you literally like get to write down all these accomplishments, because often we are negatively focused. I mean, our world is
Mm-hmm.
very negative. Like,
Mhm.
I hate turning on the news because somebody's killed somebody. Like it's like, or
Yeah.
somebody's had a challenge or this accident has happened. It's like so
Totally.
depressing, right? And so it's really hard to get away from that. But I think like, yeah, just, doing all the things and focusing on, the positive, and also just catching
Mhm.
yourself and, working with that. But yeah, it's always a work in progress. Like I don't think it's ever going away, unfortunately, as
Mhm.
much as we would love it to.
Exactly. Okay. So I know my next question is I know I've known you for a little while, and I think I met
Mhm.
you originally when you were like kind of just starting out.
I was.
I would
Yeah.
love for you to share with our audience about kind of like where you are now, like what the rate at, because I know, I mean, I get your emails and stuff like that. So I see like the new stories and the new people, and just kind of, how that has grown and evolved for you. And if you want to share any of your speakers, because I think you have a good diversity of speakers that are in your agency right now too.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Thank you for asking, because it is exciting. Like it's exciting to sit back and be like, holy, I did that.
Yeah.
So where I am now, so I am going into my fourth year of business. So in September, it'll technically be 4 years. And that I've been running the business. And I am on the verge of the next stage, if that makes sense. So I kind of evaluated it and said, okay, this business thing is working. I'm enjoying it. I have a lot of passion. I've worked on my mindset and still will work on it. But, I've worked on those limiting beliefs and things, and like will continue to. And I have those tools. Like I'm much quicker now at like getting out of that negative
Mhm.
state. This is like the consistency is key thing. So where I am now is I'm investing a lot in the business, which is really scary. I'll admit, like I'm spending money and it's like, I'm like, oh God, I hope this comes back. Like, and obviously it's like, it's not just impulsive. Like I'm strategically thinking about it, but it's still scary.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like to elevate the business to the next level, I need to. So I'm investing in a digital team that's going to take the website, the business, everything to just that new level, a branding team that's really going to help with that as well. A process and systems person who's really good at this stuff. And I really suck at it. Oh, I hate it so much, but she loves it. And I'm like, yes, please take a view, do your thing. Tell me what to do. I promise I'll follow it. I might kick back a few times, but I promise I'll follow it as much as I can. So I'm really doing that. And then what I'm doing is I'm investing in a business coach and I'm sitting down with her to really take a look at a bird's eye view of the business and okay, where do most of our clients come from? What are the repeat ones? Which ones are we neglecting? Which ones do we need to focus on more? And also like what does TA represent as a whole? And then so that's my work into this fall and into the end of the year. And then in December, I want to take all that information, sit down and really assess where we're going. And then I want to add new speakers in 2025. So my goal, because I'm like smaller in boutique, I'm not this big, massive agency, nor do I want to be, is to have about 15 thought leaders. I have 8 right now. I have 2 part-time team members that I just decided I needed to hire because there's no way I could keep doing this on my own. Somebody who does sales for me and somebody who does logistics for me, which has been a massive learning journey, but also massive help and worth it. And yeah, just really seeing where it's going next. Like my goal is, I hope to build up to the 15 and by 2026, and then that's like the 15 that we really focus on, and then seeing who else I need to hire. I think a lot of times it's like this is what I'm learning. You're making educated guesses a lot of the times. You're like, okay, I'm going to try this. And like the first person I hired in a sales role didn't work out. Like it just didn't work out. But the second person I did, thank God. And she's still working and she's amazing. So yeah. So that's where I'm going. I think I'm it feels like we're on the verge of like people really seeing the value we're bringing and getting that it's different. And then taking it to that next stage so that like I don't need to make like all the money in the world, but I want to be in a position where I can help as many people as I can. We can get our speakers' messages out there as much as we can. And I can live, I can travel when I want to, and I can maybe have a kid. We'll see. That's something that's still up in the air. But yeah, that's where I'm going. Very long answer.
No, that was awesome.
I really love that answer. Yeah, that was great.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
It's a lot, but it's worth it. That's what I keep telling them.
It is. I think every entrepreneur feels that way. Like there's seasons too, right? Or it's a lot, but it's worth it. It's worth it. And I think if it wasn't, we probably wouldn't be choosing this path, right?
I think
more work. Yeah.
I think I always say like if you're not passionate about it, like deeply passionate about it, and you're not, like okay with the uncertainty, which you get used to, don't do it because it's a lot, but it's also so rewarding. Like I remember my friend was like, oh, must be nice that you can take the Monday off now that you're back from vacation. And I didn't take it fully off, but I slept until 11 and whatever. She's like, must be nice. I'm like, yeah, it's nice that I can do that, but you have no idea what I got to do to make that happen. So like, yeah, it's nice, but there are other things that aren't so nice that come along with that.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. Well, I'm going to completely pivot in a completely different direction with our last question here. We are asking our guests to help us create a playlist for season 2. So we want to know what songs are inspiring you right now, or what is playing on a loop for you at the moment.
Does it have to be a good song?
No, it does not. So
we want it. Yeah. We want it to be random. That's fine.
Yeah. I will share.
I have no idea if this is a good one for a podcast, and I am terrible with song names, but I am obsessed with the Bar song by Shabuzi right now. Like I don't know.
I know which song. Yeah.
I think deeply it's a terrible song when you listen to the words, but
it's catchy.
I just love it.
So catchy.
It's so catchy.
Can't help it sometimes. times.
When
It's
I'm at a
so
bar
good.
getting whiskey.
Yeah,
Yep,
Yeah, no,
that's
yeah,
the
it
one.
yeah.
comes
That's the
Another
on.
shot
one.
of
Yeah,
whiskey.
it's great.
Da,
Yeah,
da, da.
it's so catchy. Yeah,
It's so catchy. It's so
I love this.
catchy.
It's going on the
it's
playlist.
good. Yeah,
1000%. Yeah.
I think it's just catchy
yeah,
enough that you have
Yep.
to play it.
yeah,
Like
You have
it's
to.
just that
yeah.
is.
It's on like
I
the
love that
viral
question.
hits playlist on Apple Music or
I
something
think it
right now.
probably is because you hear it all the
Yeah,
time, right? Like,
yeah.
and I guess it's what I learned recently. It's actually a play off of another
Oh, is
song.
it really?
I didn't know that.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
didn't know
I
interesting.
don't know
that.
which one, but
Yeah,
somebody said that. They told me which one, but I can't remember
yeah.
now.
That's awesome. I love that answer.
Oh my gosh.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for chatting with us today. This has been an amazing conversation. And I love having business conversations with people who just get it. And we just, who don't try to be boring about business and and be real and authentic and have real conversations. Like it's so refreshing, and that's kind of the whole reason why we wanted to have this podcast and have these
Yeah,
conversations, is just to show that business doesn't have to be done the way that we were all taught that it is done. And
Mhm.
thank you for sharing your story and for talking to our listeners about that. I think they're really going to enjoy this.
Yeah.
yeah.
So Tammy, to close us out, how do people find you? Where should they listen to you? And how does somebody work with you? Which I'm just gonna put that in the
Yes.
universe.
That's
This could be
Yeah.
yeah,
people's
yeah.
opening to
So I
be on your
mean,
listing 24/5.
so yeah, totally. No, no, totally good questions. So I pretty much live on LinkedIn, so you can find me there under Tami Adams. So I'm under that name on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram under TA Speakers Management. So that's really the fun side, I say. Like it's more for fun videos, like, sharing fun things. And I share a lot of like I will, because of my social media is kind of like twofold. It's like promoting speakers, but it's also promoting the coaching side. So I do share a lot of tips and videos and things on, just that online. So there's definitely, and then I guess the question is like, it's twofold too, because people work with me in different ways. So I think you mean like, how do speakers work with me? Like how do speakers
Mhm.
become a speaker? But there's also clients as well,
Mhm.
obviously. And so clients, yeah, they can reach out, learn about us, all that, see who we have, and kind of make that transformational experience happen through the speech. But speakers wise, it's a bit of a long-winded one, only because I'm not the massive agency. I don't plan to have hundreds. So that means I need to be a lot more handpicky about who I work with. And it's nothing in particular per se. It's more like just what do I like? One of my speakers, Brandy, I love it, is she says, she's a domestic violence survivor, and she's lived a journey. She started a business out of a women's shelter, and like when she
Wow.
really had nothing left to give, or to even nothing left in general, like she really kicked butt. And she says a lot of the things, the purpose, the reasons that you build a business or you kind of put something forward, or things you care about, is disservices that have happened to you in life. And so I've had a lot of mental health challenges in my family. I've had a lot of like issues around just wellness and health and leadership and stuff. So I really like to push those issues forward. So a lot of times I guess I like kind of assess based on, people who want to make a big difference in the world. Like they want to really make the world better. They also are people who are really good on stage because, obviously like working with an agency, it's an elevated experience. So, they really hone the stage and are really good entertainers and engagers. And that the message resonates. But I work with people in different ways too. So like I will book speakers that aren't on my website if I need to.
Mhm.
So obviously if I have a client and I want to serve them, like I'm not going to limit it to like say just for whatever reason one of my speakers doesn't fit. There could be many reasons I could, many reasons I couldn't. Then I will suggest others as well. Just in terms of who I'm working with full time, that's like a whole other criteria. But yeah, just kind of like never hurts to reach out, I say, and have a conversation, and then you never know where a connection will go. So I hope that answers your
I love
question.
that.
No, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to our listeners for tuning into another episode. As always, you can find us on our website, taketheleap-today.com. If you have suggestions for other speakers, or if you would like to be a speaker on the podcast, you can fill out our form there. Or if you have feedback for us, we have a listener feedback form, and we hope to catch you on the next episode of Take the Leap. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Take the Leap podcast. We hope you found useful takeaways you can apply to your entrepreneurial journey. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and keep in touch and follow us on Instagram. If you have business questions, shoot us a direct message or leave us a comment. We'll try to cover it in an upcoming episode. And visit our website, taketheleap-today.com, for more resources like our online course that accompanies this podcast.